Hi everyone, I'm Elliot Sarba, and welcome to a chat with Anomaly Drafting and Design, a webinar series focusing on secondary and backyard suites. Okay, visualize it, design it, build it. In this webinar, I'll show you how visualizing influences the design and how the design directs the construction. What I tell my clients is you need to visualize your wants. You need to have a clear idea of what you want and understand what you need. When we communicate our needs and wants, we identify the purpose of our vision. For example, suites could be used for a personal means or a source of income. When we establish our vision, this soon becomes our goal. What are you thinking? Are you thinking about building a new secondary suite? Do you know what a secondary suite is? A secondary suite is a dwelling within a dwelling. Therefore, a basement suite isn't always necessary. Your secondary suite can actually be a suite within the attic or a space above the garage. But how about if you're thinking about building a new backyard suite? A backyard suite is a dwelling that is also on the same property as the main dwelling. Therefore, a new backyard suite does not necessarily have to be on top of a garage. It can be a building all on its own. What you need to understand is we consider a backyard suite as an accessory residential dwelling. To build these suites, you still need to know their purpose because that's what's going to influence your design. The core objectives. All home renovation projects require a plan of execution. To clarify, we need to know the four main core objectives. What is your timeline? What is your overall budget? Do you have the right consultants around you? And do you know the submission process at the municipality? For this webinar, we're going to be focusing about the city of Calgary. And we're going to pick two properties. We're going to have one property that we own that we're going to build a secondary suite, and have a second property that we're looking to buy for a backyard suite. Okay, our goal for property A. I said it was a secondary suite. And in our secondary suite, we're going to have our grown children live there throughout their course in university, and for the first couple of years, them being in the workforce. But once they leave, we're probably going to use this suite for out-of-towners, or open the space up for extended family members. Or perhaps we could just switch the script a bit and have it as a future rental if we need to. But for our other property that we're looking to buy, we're going to be completely income focused. And for our income focused suite, we're looking at these options. We could use it as an Airbnb, or we can think about it as using as a long-term rental, or how about as another residence for our aging parents, where they can be there at 6 months out of the year, using the term snowbirds. Let's get a project breakdown. For property A, we got a timeline about 5 months, and our estimated budget about $65,000. The consultants that we have around us is the mortgage broker, designer, contractor, real estate agent, or appraiser. Now, the actual process is approximately 4 months, give or take. Property B, the timeline is a lot longer. It's approximately about 9 months we have set aside for it. The budget is about $200,000, and our consultants is a real estate agent, mortgage consultant, designer, engineers, and a contractor. But in reality, we should be looking about 10 months for a backyard suite. Designing is fun, but it can be extremely challenging. To properly design for your suite, you must know bylaws, building code, and building practices. The bylaws for property A, first focus is parking. So we have to provide parking stall for both the tenant and the homeowner. Next, we can look at the amenity space. An amenity space is an area designated outside for our tenant to go out and enjoy. Since we're going to be sharing this space between us and the tenant, that we have to set up some form of privacy between us so we can be outside at the same time. Next, in the green shaded region, we have to consider is zoning. For the city of Calgary, zoning for secondary suites is pretty much permissible anywhere. However, there are certain properties that don't necessarily allow for secondary suites, and we call these a discretional use. And for the discretionary use, I'm going to look at that later on in the webinar series. Bylaws for our backyard suite. So they're kind of the same. We still need to provide a parking stall for both the tenant and the homeowner. We still need to provide an amenity space for that backyard suite. But the zoning for the backyard suite is a little bit more complicated. There's only 2 types of zoning for backyard suites in the city of Calgary. However, the city of Calgary is open to additional suites on random properties. However, they all follow a discretionary use process, which I'll get into later on in this series. Next, we have to also understand that a suite cannot be built on top of an existing garage for 2 reasons. One, the garage is built either too close to the rear property line, that kind of goes against the rules for a backyard suite. And secondly, is the structure itself is not designed for another level to be built over top. So therefore, it is best that we knock down the old garage in order to build a new suite. Next, we also have to look at the minimum setbacks. So for the suite, if we look at the red dotted line going across, we can see that the suite is offset about 1.5 meters from the rear property line. In the gold shaded region, if you look at the gold arrows here, they will show you that the suite needs to be 5 meters from the furthest exterior face of the main house to the furthest exterior face of the suite. Next, we also have to consider is the gross floor area for the backyard suite to be 75 square meters, or just shy over 800 square feet. Next, you have to keep in mind you cannot have any projections into the side yard. Unlike a real house, I shouldn't say a real house, but the main house, backyard suites are very limiting in what can project into the side yard. Therefore, if you're going to have an exterior stair that will lead you up to the suite, that stair cannot be within the side yard setback. Next, we also have to think about is the overall height for the suite. Therefore, the overall height for a backyard suite is 7.5 meters, or about 24.5 feet. Then, we also have to consider is the articulation for the suite. For architectural reasons, the city of Calgary does not like to have the suite to be one big solid mass, kind of like a square box. So you have to be very creative with your articulation to your front elevation. You don't want your suite to be a one ginormous block that kind of obstructs the main house from the rear lane. Then we also have to consider that the upper floors, that their windows, if they're neighboring our neighbor's property, if they can view inside, have to be some form of opaque or privacy screen. We have to protect the privacy of our neighbors. And then lastly, when we build our suite, we also have to be conscious of the area of the suite and the area of our main house. Both areas fall within the maximum allowable lot coverage. You may have to speak with your designer to ensure that your house and your suite still stay within your maximum allot coverage. All right, so just a few more illustrations. As you can see, the windows in the left diagram, they're all opaque with a privacy screen for the balcony. And on the right upper corner diagram, we have the same windows opaque because they're facing the other neighbor's yard. And then in the middle at the bottom, the gold region, it is showing the portion of the building offset further back to give our front elevation a more of an articulation look. Now let's look at building code. So for a secondary suite, you need to know that you have to provide soundproofing between both floors. The soundproofing could be as an absorption material with resilient channels and then the drywall. Next, for the stairwell that connects both the suite and the upper floor, we have to be mindful that we have to have it drywalled and have it taped and sealed along those seams. What we're creating is a smoked sealed room. To continue that, the door that leads into the suite has to be a solid core wood door with a weather stripping that's around the slab of the door, and that provides a smoke seal as well, therefore containing our smoked sealed area. Next, we have to think about is the electrical panel. For a brand new suite, I very much so recommend that you have a sub panel that operates just for the suite. Or if you have an existing suite, you have to make sure that no circuit is also controlled the suite or anything else upstairs. You want to keep both the suite and upstairs completely separate. Within the mechanical room, once again, we're going to create another smoked sealed area. So therefore the mechanical room will need to be drywalled all around the walls and the ceiling. Next, we think about is smoke detectors. You have to have a combo smoke detector within your mechanical room, another combo smoke detector within the common area, and regular smoke detectors within all the bedrooms. All smoke detectors need to be interconnected. Bedroom windows within a secondary suite have to be egress. If you have to enlarge a window, therefore you're going deeper into the ground and you'll require a new window well, you need to understand that the window wells also have to meet a certain egress standard, which is approximately 30 inches in depth. Next, we have to provide a secondary heat source for our suite that can be controlled by the tenants downstairs. And we have to be also conscious of the ceiling height. Depending on the age of your property, the city can allow you to get away with a suite that has a headroom clearance of under 8 feet, but only in certain portions of the room. Lastly, we also have to think about is an exterior stair to be protected from the suite from the floor above. And I'll get into that just a little bit longer. Next is the building code for property B. Basically, if you can build a house, you can build a suite. The only thing that you need to be mindful of is that the homeowner's garage bay needs to be a fire separation. So therefore, wherever you park, there has to be a wall between your vehicle and the tenant's vehicle. And that is going to be a fire separation there and a fire separation between the suite and that stall below. Next, I would also suggest that you speak with your designer about unprotected openings and limiting distance. This refers to windows, doors, and places of penetration, like your vents. These unprotected openings that face your side yard property line, we call them unprotected openings because they are the risk of flame spread. So therefore, how close your building is to the property line will determine the aggregate area of all the openings on that side of the building relative to the aggregate area of the whole building face. With that in mind, you'll also have to think about the distance between your suite to the main house. If you're thinking about putting an unprotected opening at your suite, then you have to create some form of limiting distance, an imaginary property line. Talk to your designer about it so they can go more in depth with it with you. So here's a few more pictures with regards to smoke sealing a mechanical room and a stairwell. And now I'll get into exterior stairs for a basement suite. So you have to understand upstairs is one fire compartment and the secondary suite is another fire compartment. And to separate both fire compartments, we have to put some form of structure in between. This is for in case there's a fire on the upper floor and the fire goes through those windows, we still need to provide a safe means of passage for someone to exit out the suite. So in the event on the left slide, there is a deck that's going across the door, so therefore it is now protected for the person to come upstairs. But on the right side, we couldn't put any form of structure over the stair. So we had to speak with a code specialist who can extrapolate the code enough for us so that we can place a sprinkler head within the windows. The sprinkler head will control the fire and allow enough time for the tenant to escape the suite. If you're going to put a sprinkler head within your suite or anywhere within your home, you will need a written consent from the code, from someone who does a code review, or an architect, and have them give their stamp, or a professional engineer. Okay, building practice. How we choose to build will determine the efficiency and the cost of our project. There's two types of construction types that we need to know, and that is performance and prescriptive. Prescriptive is the energy performance characteristics of various building products that meet the prescribed requirements. If you were to look through your building code, and we're going to use an exterior wall as an example, we have to look through the code and see that every material that's within that exterior wall, it has to follow a certain requirement within the code that makes that wall resistant to our climate zone. So it kind of gets really not too complicated, but what you need to understand is, being in Alberta, we have a very high climate zone. We go through extremities here. So therefore, the wall has to meet a certain RSI value, a thermal resistance value. And because of that, the code has a very stringent on our materials that we have to put within that wall. But there's also another way around this, and that is called performance. When we go through performance, we hire an energy code consultant, where the energy code consultant, they'll do a calculation where they look at all members within the building envelope. So the walls, the roof, floors, and they look at each component like windows, doors, insulation within the walls, and also mechanical devices such as an HRV unit. And what happens is they'll do a calculation on various types of the amount of the materials within each building component. Therefore, we can fluctuate in terms of how much of those characteristics are used to build the building, and also we will have an energy performance that meets the requirements for our designated climate zone. And that I'll have to do a whole nother video for. Building practices for property A. So we can look at doing a couple of things for our suite: installing another furnace or exchanging for a zone furnace, installing radiant floor heating, or electronic base heaters with an HRV unit. For property B, we can look at building either prescriptive or performance, slab on grade or building a basement for it, air conditioning unit, elevators or lifts, vaulted ceilings, or various types of insulation. To continue, backyard suite utilities is also something to be conscious of. To be on the safe side, you just want to excavate between your suite and the main house, because you want to run the connections from the suite to the main house and then to the main line in the street. So to do that, we need to make sure that the property that we select, that the main house mechanical room is as close to the rear of the home as much as possible. If that mechanical room, let's say, is at the front of your basement, kind of like mine, then I'm going to have to cut up all the concrete to get to my mechanical room. But if it's at the back wall, then the job is a lot simpler and the cost is way, way down. Another thing you also have to think about are sump pumps and grinders, because you have to understand your suite is probably going to be at a different geodetic elevation relative to the main house. It could either be higher or lower. And depending on where the elevation of the main street lines are, you're going to have to use a sump pump or a grinder to make sure that that water and sewage is pumped all the way out to the street and having no problems with any forms of backup that can cause a lot of issues within your suite. So with these things in mind, now we can break down our needs and wants. So for property A, because the kids are just going to be down there, we're going to have it as a kitchen with an island, 4 appliances, stacker laundry, full bath, exterior exit, and we're going to use this electronic baseboard heating. For our second property, because we're going to have aging parents that are going to be living there, we're going to do an open concept with an elevator. We'll still have an exterior stair because we have to provide another means of egress, but we're going to have is a barrier-free type of living. So we'll have a roll-in shower, we're going to have an open shelving, and then we'll probably have a small furnace with an instant hot water tank. We're going to be going prescriptive. When we finalize our items, now we can finally draft it. And when it comes to design, you can't just draft it once. It's a process where we keep going back and forth, refining our ideas. So be patient and try to have fun. Once we have our drawings together, now is the time to submit to the city. So we have to submit for development permit first. And for development permit, you have to understand that it all falls back to what type of lot that you have. If your lot for a secondary suite is listed as a permitted use, then what the city planners do is they will look through your drawings and they'll see if you meet the minimal bylaw requirements. If it does, then they could easily just forward your drawings along for building permit. However, for our backyard suite, because backyard suites are not permissible on all types of lots, we will be subjected through a discretionary use process. And the discretionary use process will require the city planners to take the time to study your drawings. Then they're going to put a notice on your property to alert your neighbors of your future project. There, the neighbors will be able to look at your drawings and then have an idea if they do like it or don't like it and voice their concerns. This could delay your project to a week or to several weeks, but you need to be mindful. If everything is a straight shot with no problems, then you have to project a timeline of approximately 6 weeks for a discretionary use application. Once our applications are through development permit and they're in building permit, just be mindful for a secondary suite, we're looking about a week to 2 weeks. And for a backyard suite, we're looking at about 2 weeks to 3 weeks, depending on the complexity of the design. All right. So when you submit your drawings in to the City of Calgary, you also have to think about the submission fees. As of right now, the City of Calgary is waiving fees for your development permit application for a backyard suite and also waiving the fees to register your secondary suite. If you're thinking about building either or, now is the time. Financing. I'm not going to spend too much time with this. Instead, what I am going to do is I'm going to recommend you to go seek out your mortgage specialist. But for now, I'm just going to give you the 4 categories, which are the Purchase Plus Improvement Loan, which is a loan that is determined about the overall projected value of your house after the improvement has been completed. So this will probably project it about 10% of the overall cost of the building. Or the bank will loan you a maximum amount of $40,000. The next type of loan is refinancing, where you change the amortization of your loan, and it's a loan of 80 to 20% down payment. The home equity line of credit is a loan that is based on how much of your mortgage is already paid off, and then the mortgage draw. And now these are harder loans to obtain, but these loans are dependent on how much income that the suite or the suite is going to bring value, or how much capital is placed up front from the borrower. When building your design, you have to work closely with your general contractor. So, coming from a background in home building, we always had our clients be looking at interior finishes, appliances, and things like that while their drawings were at design or with that building permit submitted for building permit. Excuse me. So when this happens, to save time, you need to start looking for your finishes, appliances, and mechanical things while your drawings are submitted at the development permit stage. Because once your drawings are completed and you try to shop around your drawings for a general contractor, it is best to have everything itemized into that drawing so your contractor can be a lot quicker giving you the budget for the overall projected cost for the construction and give you a budget that is really close to being accurate because you're very detailed in everything that you're presenting. And not to mention, always keep in mind of a contingency plan. Not everything goes that smoothly, so it's good to have a backup. All right, finding the right contractor. Just a few things just to keep in mind when you're looking for a contractor. 1, are they bonded? 2, how much insurance they carry. 3, can they apply for an Alberta New Home Warranty? I'm going to probably talk about this in another video, but when I talk about Alberta New Home Warranty, what I mean is it is a warranty that comes with your house if your house is going through an extensive home renovation. Therefore, 75% of the home is going to be physically changed. Therefore, a new Alberta home warranty is going to be required. It's good to have a contractor that has a license that he can go and obtain the home warranty for you than you trying to do it privately on your own. And then lastly is to just check their quality of work by going through their work history, try to go through referrals and things like that, just to build up that trust between you and that contractor. So, after everything is done, the only thing that is left to do is enjoy your vision. So that concludes my webinar on secondary suites and backyard suites, but I'm going to revisit this subject again later on in the new year. I thank you very much for participating, and I hope to see you soon. Take care and have a wonderful day.